So what if I told you that the ultimate secret to achieving immortality or reaching spiritual enlightenment and, becoming a literal celestial being is to basically treat your life exactly like a video game?
I mean, it sounds like a joke, right?
Yeah.
But that is actually the premise we're looking at today.
Right, because usually we think of spiritual ascension as this agonizing, decades-long process of, I don't know, suffering in a cave somewhere. But today we are doing a deep dive into a translated text from 2011. It's by an author named Shuifeng, and it's titled, See How Far You Are from Becoming a Celestial Being.
Yeah, and the title really sets the tone for the whole piece.
It really does. And the mission of our deep dive today is to unpack what is honestly the most counterintuitive, highly structured, and surprisingly practical roadmap to enlightenment you will probably ever hear.
It is definitely a huge departure from the typical literature in this space. I mean, usually when we dig into texts about achieving a higher plane of existence, they're just steeped in deep mysticism or, ambiguity.
Oh, totally. Like cryptic poetry that you have to spend years decoding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Su Feng's approach here is remarkably bold.
Hmm.
He isn't presenting this as some impossible, mysterious task for a chosen few. He lays it out as a very clear, step-by-step psychological diagnostic. You read it and you realize you might actually already be playing this cosmic game.
Yeah, and you might even be further along than you think, which is exactly why I wanted to bring this to you today. Because reading the text, it feels almost like a progression tree in an RPG.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it.
You've got different character classes, unlockable levels, very specific requirements to level up. But before we get into evaluating where you, the listener, currently stand on this progression tree, we kind of have to talk about the final destination first.
Right, the end game.
The end game. The text says the ultimate goal is ascending to something called the Celestial Islands continent. And I have to admit, that just sounds to me like the final map in a fantasy game. What is this place actually supposed to be?
Well, think of the Celestial Islands continent less as a, physical landmass with palm trees and beaches, and more as a dimensional frequency.
Okay, a frequency.
Yeah, in the context of the author's broader philosophy, it represents the ultimate state of unburdened existence. It's a place, or really a state of being, where consciousness operates entirely free from the friction of the mortal world.
That's nice.
It does. But to get there, you can't just buy a ticket. You have to climb a very specific hierarchy of existence. The text basically categorizes these beings into 5 distinct evolutionary tiers.
Like levels in the game.
Exactly. You start at the very bottom with ghost celestial beings. Then you move up to human celestial beings, land celestial beings, deity celestial beings, and finally at the very top of the hierarchy, super celestial beings.
Okay, let me stop you right at the bottom of that list. Because the author lays out this 5-tier hierarchy, but almost immediately writes, we do not aspire to be ghost celestial beings.
Yeah, he dismisses it right away.
Right. So if the ghost tier is part of the progression, why are we actively avoiding it? Like, what is actually happening in that ghost state that makes it so undesirable?
So if we look at the psychological architecture of spiritual traditions in general, a ghost state isn't just about, floating through walls or haunting a house.
Right, it's not Casper.
No, not at all. It represents a state of being completely stuck. It's the manifestation of lingering attachments or unresolved trauma. Basically, an existence where you might have shed your physical body, but you are still entirely bound by your earthly anxieties and karma.
Oh, wow. So you're dead, but you're still stressed out about your taxes.
Pretty much. By explicitly dismissing the ghost celestial tier, Shueik is drawing a hard line. He is telling the reader that the goal of this philosophy is not a purgatorial, disembodied lingering where you just obsess over what you left behind. The aim is realization, not haunting.
So it's essentially the spiritual equivalent of being trapped in the lobby of a multiplayer game because your connection is too poor to actually load into the match.
That is a highly accurate way to frame it.
You're there, but you aren't playing.
Yeah, you are caught in the latency between worlds. And what's brilliant about the author's rhetorical strategy here is that he trims the fat off both ends of this hierarchy.
What do you mean?
Well, he tells us to forget the ghosts, right? But he also acknowledges that reaching the levels of deity or super celestial beings is way too far out of reach for the reader to worry about right now.
Okay. So he cuts out the bottom and the top.
Exactly. He narrows the aperture. He says, let's just focus on the immediate next step. Let's reflect on whether we have achieved the status of a human celestial being. That is the immediate practical benchmark for anyone reading.
Okay, so that's the goal for today. And to figure out if you've hit that benchmark, He provides an incredibly detailed 8-state checklist.
And it is a rigorous checklist.
It is intense. Let's break them down because I think the first few are going to sound really jarring to a modern listener. The first group focuses heavily on detachment.
Right, the severing of ties.
Yeah, State 1 literally requires severing earthly ties and having a mind with no hindrances. State 2 demands clear consciousness and untangled thoughts. And then later on, State 8 demands that you are completely unbothered by life and death or honor and disgrace.
Those are heavy requirements. I mean, they challenge the very core of how we organize our lives.
They really do. And honestly, I need to push back on behalf of anyone listening right now. Sever earthly ties. Does that mean the author expects me to, quit my job, sell my house, abandon my family, and go live in a cave?
It sounds like it, doesn't it?
Because as someone with a mortgage and an inbox full of unread emails, if that is step 1, I am checking out of this philosophy immediately.
And that is actually the most common roadblock people hit when they encounter Eastern-leaning spiritual texts. We tend to interpret severing ties purely physically.
Because that's what the words literally mean.
Fair. But the mechanics of this detachment are entirely internal.
Hmm.
Huafeng isn't asking you to abandon your children or quit your job. The hindrance isn't the job itself. It's your psychological enmeshment with it.
Okay, so it's how I feel about the job, not the job itself.
Exactly. It's the difference between doing your job well and tying your entire self-worth to whether or not you get a promotion. When State 8 talks about being unbothered by honor and disgrace, it means you can participate in the corporate world, you can receive praise or get chewed out by a boss, and your internal temperature doesn't change.
Interesting.
You sever the emotional dependency on the outcomes of the earthly world, not the physical connections to it.
Okay, well, that makes it a lot more accessible. It's an internal insulation, not physical isolation.
Right.
But even with that clarification, I don't know, it still sounds a bit numb, like you are just becoming this cold, indifferent observer who doesn't care if they live or die.
And that's where the text throws a curveball.
Yeah. Because as you read further into the checklist, the text takes a massive pivot. It contrasts that cool detachment with an explosion of intense emotion.
And this is where the framework becomes truly revolutionary compared to, say, the stereotype of the ascetic silent monk. The author doesn't leave you in an empty void.
Right, State 3 says, you must feel life is very simple with absolutely nothing to sorrow over, only joy.
Only joy.
Yeah, and State 4 takes it even further, stating you must feel as though you have fallen into an ocean of love where your heart is filled with nothing but gratitude. And then State 5 adds this deep yearning for beauty and the literal sensation that all beautiful things are walking right toward you.
It's incredibly poetic.
But how do those two things coexist? I mean, how do you maintain a mind that doesn't care about life, death, honor, or disgrace, but is simultaneously vibrating with an ocean of love and excitement? That feels like a massive contradiction.
It only feels like a contradiction because we are so used to love and joy being tied to specific earthly outcomes.
What do you mean?
Well, we think we will feel joy if we get the promotion, or we will feel love if someone praises us. But remember, the first 3 states removed all of that. They cleared out the tangled thoughts. The psychology here relies on the idea that human beings are naturally joyful and loving, but those feelings are constantly suppressed by fear.
Oh, fear of death, fear of failure.
Fear of disgrace, exactly.
So it's a cause and effect thing. Nature abhors a vacuum.
Precisely. Think about people who survive near-death experiences. You often hear them say that suddenly they just don't care about their inbox or their mortgage anymore. They have achieved that profound detachment from earthly anxieties that we just talked about.
Right.
And what replaces it? They step outside and are moved to tears by the smell of rain or just the sight of a tree. That is the ocean of love rushing into the space where the anxiety used to be. The detachment doesn't make you cold, it makes you available.
Available to actually experience the beauty of existence because you aren't terrified of losing it anymore.
You nailed it.
I really love that visual. The anxiety drains out and the gratitude floods in, which sets up the final 2 states on this checklist perfectly. Because if you are detached from outcomes but filled with love, how do you actually behave in the real world?
This is where it gets really practical.
Yeah, so State 6 says you go with the flow, you adapt to circumstances, you follow your nature, and act according to the moment without clinging. Sure, that makes sense. But State 7 completely blew my mind.
It is arguably the most radical point in the entire text.
State 7 says that to be a human celestial being, you must feel that everything is a fun game, and you constantly want to immerse yourself in entertainment and games. I mean, this is a serious spiritual text. And it's basically saying, treat your life like an open-world video game and go play the mini-games.
It is amazing, right?
But how does wanting to play games equal spiritual maturity?
We have to unpack what playing a game actually means in this specific context. In our modern culture, we equate seriousness with depth.
Oh, absolutely. If it's not hard, it's not worthwhile.
Exactly. If a spiritual path isn't arduous, solemn, and somewhat painful, we assume it isn't legitimate.
Yeah.
But Shufeng flips that completely. Think about how you act when you play a really good game.
Okay, I'm playing a game.
You participate fully, right? You strategize, you try to win, you engage with the mechanics. But if your character loses a life, you don't actually suffer existential dread. You just respawn and try again.
Yeah.
Because you fundamentally know the stakes aren't real.
So you're invested, but not attached.
Exactly. Applying that to real life is the ultimate manifestation of the human celestial state. Let's say your flight gets delayed by 4 hours.
Ugh, the worst.
Right? The average person, tangled in earthly anxieties, suffers. They rage at the gate agent, their day is ruined, they feel disgraced by the inconvenience. But someone operating at State 7 views the delay as just an unexpected side quest.
A side quest.
Like a puzzle. The objective has changed from board the plane to entertain myself in Terminal B for 4 hours. They are fully immersed in the game of life, but they do not suffer over the changing rules.
Wow, that reframes everything. Like viewing a stressful email from your boss not as a threat to your survival, but just a boss fight in a video game you happen to be playing. But, okay, here's my struggle with this. Achieving this. You know, never having tangled thoughts, swimming in an ocean of gratitude, treating every crisis as a fun game. It sounds like something that would require decades of intense study. Like you would need to read hundreds of books on philosophy, master complex meditation techniques, and deeply analyze your own psyche just to get there.
And that logical assumption brings us directly to the author's critique of what we might call modern spiritual hustle culture.
Right.
Because Shafak argues that doing exactly what you just described, studying, analyzing, and treating enlightenment like a PhD program, is the exact reason people fail.
He goes really hard on this point in the text. He writes that in the past, people focused heavily on acquiring knowledge, studying theories, and practicing mystical methods and arts.
Yes.
And the result. He states bluntly that not only did they fail to become celestial beings, but they literally wasted their lives. So what is he saying we should do instead? Because right now, hitting these 8 states sounds impossible without some kind of intense training manual.
The author suggests that the intellect itself is often the primary obstacle to spiritual realization.
The intellect.
Yeah. The ego loves to study enlightenment because studying feels like progress, but it allows you to avoid actually changing. It's very similar to riding a bicycle.
How so?
Well, if you want to learn to ride a bike, you just get on, pedal, and let your body intuitively find its balance. But if you stop and try to intellectually calculate the physics of the gyroscopic effect and, the exact angle of your momentum and the wind resistance,
You are going to freeze up and crash.
you're going to crash. The intellect paralyzes the instinct.
Ah, so you overthink the physics until you crash the bike.
Right. And in the text, Shuifeng's alternative to this exhausting scholarly pursuit is startlingly simple. He just says, follow the guide. He argues that by simply walking the path day by day, yielding to the process rather than trying to intellectually conquer it, things naturally became clear. It is meant to be simple, easy, and accompanied by joy.
But hold on. I mean, we have to acknowledge the massive irony happening here.
There's definitely irony.
The author just gave us a highly detailed, deeply theoretical hierarchy of celestial beings, complete with 5 evolutionary tiers and an 8-point diagnostic checklist, and then immediately turns around and tells us to abandon intellectual theories.
Yep.
He literally wrote a structured manual to tell us that structured manuals waste your life. How do we square that?
It is a brilliant pedagogical trick, actually, and you see it across many wisdom traditions. The human mind craves order. It demands a map. If a teacher just says, hey, go with the flow and be happy, the mind rebels. It says, no, give me metrics. Give me a checklist.
We love a checklist.
So the author provides exactly that. The hierarchy and the 8 states are the raft you use to cross the river. But once you are on the water, the mind is pacified by having a structure. And at that exact moment, the author tells you to drop the heavy baggage of overanalysis. You don't carry the raft onto the far shore.
I see.
The structure gets you to the starting line, but the actual journey requires letting go of the need to intellectually master the universe.
So you use the checklist to realize you don't need the checklist.
It's exactly.
Okay, I follow the logic there. So let's assume the listener manages to do this. They master the mental and emotional game, they sever the anxiety, they feel the love, they are playing life like a game, they unlock the human celestial being achievement.
A major milestone.
But the progression tree doesn't end there. To reach the next tier, the land celestial being, the text introduces a requirement that really caught me off guard. It shifts from the mental to the physical.
It does. The transition to a land celestial being requires maintaining all 8 of those profound mental states, but it introduces a biological imperative. You must also possess good health, a vibrant spirit, and the vitality of youth.
A physical requirement, that's wild to me. You've optimized the software of your mind, but to unlock the next level, your physical avatar actually needs an upgrade. Why does the author introduce physical health into a roadmap about spiritual enlightenment? Usually these texts are all about leaving the body behind, not making sure it looks youthful.
Yeah, it really pushes back against the traditions that promote the degradation of the body, like extreme fasting or asceticism, to elevate the spirit. Swifting is tying the psychological directly to the biological.
Okay.
Let's think about the mechanics of stress for a second. Modern science tells us that chronic anxiety, fear, and anger literally bathe our cells in cortisol. It ages us, it degrades our immune system, it literally drains our vitality.
For sure. Stress kills.
So the author is suggesting that if you actually achieve the 8 states of a human celestial being, if you truly eliminate all mental tangles, fear of death, and stress over earthly disgrace, your body is no longer being continuously poisoned by your own mind.
Oh, so the youthful vitality isn't some magical spell or a superficial beauty standard. It is the biological reality of living with zero stress.
Exactly. The mental enlightenment physically manifests as biological radiance. The untangled mind allows the body to restore its natural health. And the text promises that if you achieve both of these, the mental mastery of the human celestial and the physical vitality of the land celestial, you are guaranteed arrival at the 1,000-year world.
The 1,000-year world, another incredible location on this cosmic map. And at this point in the text, we've gone from human to land, we are headed to the 1,000-year world, and naturally, the reader is looking at the top of the leaderboards.
Of course.
They want to know, okay, how do I become a deity or a super celestial being? And Shufang ends the text with what has to be one of the greatest cliffhangers in spiritual literature.
It really is a masterclass in pacing and, honestly, leadership dynamics. When addressing those highest tiers, he doesn't give another checklist. He simply writes, "Continue to follow me, and in due time, I will tell you."
I will tell you. Just keep following. Keep tuning in. It's the spiritual equivalent of like and subscribe for part 2.
It totally is. And if we look at this strictly from the perspective of how movements are built and sustained, it is a highly effective retention strategy. By promising future instructions for the ultimate levels, the author firmly cements his position as the indispensable guide.
You can't do it without him.
Right. You can't just memorize the 8-step checklist, walk away, and finish the cosmic journey on your own. You are bound to the guide for the final revelations. It ensures that the reader remains engaged, committed, and continually looking to the author for direction.
It certainly keeps the audience on the hook, I'll give him that. But honestly, even if we put aside that guru dynamic at the very end, the core message of this text offers incredible value for you, the listener, right now, today.
Absolutely.
You don't have to be actively trying to ascend to the Celestial Islands continent to use this. Think about the friction of daily life. We are constantly tangled in our thoughts, stressed about our social standing, terrified of the future, striving to untangle that, deliberately choosing to let the gratitude rush in, and deciding, even just during your morning commute, to view life's absurd challenges as a fun minigame. I mean, that is a profoundly powerful tool for navigating the 21st century.
It really is an antidote to modern anxiety. And it forces us to confront a very uncomfortable truth about how we live today. We exist in a culture that is utterly obsessed with optimization.
Oh, totally.
We have endless deep dives, books, and apps dedicated to life hacking our way to perfect productivity, perfect health, perfect mindfulness. We track our sleep, we measure our macros, we schedule our meditation blocks. We're essentially practicing the exact modern equivalent of the mystical methods and arts that the author criticized as a waste of life.
We are furiously studying the physics of the bicycle while we are crashing into the pavement.
Precisely. We intellectualize our well-being to the point of complete exhaustion, which leaves us with a rather provocative question to mull over.
What's that?
Well, if achieving the ultimate state of existence, whether you label it becoming a human celestial being, or simply finding genuine lasting inner peace, requires us to abandon complex theories, stop agonizing over our progress metrics, and simply play the game of life with joy. At what point does our modern obsession with relentless self-improvement actually become the very obstacle keeping us from true contentment?
Wow, that is exactly what you need to ask yourself the next time you are stressing over your own spiritual performance review. You might just need to put down the textbook, pick up the controller, and actually enjoy the game.